Managing challenges in interpersonal relationships. Kylie Platt, Gabby Nelson, Delilah Bernier.
What are relationship challenges? Relationship challenges are defined in the book as a wide range of interactional problems that can threaten the continuance of a relationship. If these challenges are worked through, the relationship can grow stronger from it, and if not, the relationship could come to an end. There are many different problems that can occur in a relationship. The most common problems that happen are jealousy, dialectical tensions, betrayal of trust, controlling, infidelity, and deception. Jealousy generally stems from the fear of the person you're in a relationship with being with someone else, physically or emotionally. The book defines it as occurring when a person perceives a threat to an existing relationship. Another threat to a relationship could be dialectical tensions, which is essentially just the lack of communication in the relationship. Betrayal of trust is usually when someone in the relationship gives away their partner's information that they trusted them with. Controlling can be controlling a number of things: who they hang out with, what they wear, or what they're allowed to do. Infidelity is when the person you're in a relationship with is unfaithful and is with someone else without your knowledge. And deception could be pretty much anything from withholding information to lying and not telling you the truth. The importance of managing relationship challenges. Any relationship, whether it be a friendship or a romantic relationship, is going to run into problems eventually. And the amount of relationships that are ending because people aren't working through their issues or don't have the skills to know how is drastically increasing. Two studies found out that on average, high school relationships only last from 4 to 8.5 months. Another study found that over 43% of first marriages end with divorce within 15 years, and an even higher number for second marriages. One study determined that on average, about 50% of high school best friends were no longer friends after their first year of college. It is super important to be able to work through problems in a relationship because if not, the relationship will likely end. So it is very necessary to develop the skills to know how to do so.
The individual and relationship challenges. Social influence plays a really big role in many relationships, meaning that many individuals want to influence others while resisting being influenced. So basically, everyone wants to change others without being changed themselves. So there are different kinds of influences that people hope to have on one another. One of which is primary influence goals, which is has like a desired outcome that could be either tangible or it's like a measurable response to something. So if someone needs help with something or if someone wants like to physically get something out of someone, then that would be a primary influence goal. A secondary influence goal is related to a change in the message used to accomplish a goal. So these are described as identity goals, interaction goals, relational resource goals, personal resource goals, and arousal maintenance goals. All of these um, are goals that constrain or enhance the message that they use to accomplish goals. So secondary influence goals are, like I said, related to a change in the message used to accomplish a goal. So basically how, like the things that you say to convince someone of something, or the way that you do that. So identity goals present concept. Um, Interaction goals are ideally perceived as interacting appropriately. So it's the way that you act is like you're looking for other people's approval for them to deem it as appropriate. Relational resource goals maintain or increase others' affection or support. So basically, when you're acting in a way that shows a relational resource goals, you want someone to like you more. A personal resource goal is like a goal where you really care about what you're getting out of it, whether it be time or money or property. It's like something tangible. Arousal maintenance goals are when you have a goal intentionally like put in a way that will make your feelings lessen, whether it be discomfort or anxiety you set up a situation where you feel less of those things. And compliance gaining messages are strategies used for convincing people. So all those things um, listed above are strategies used. Weapons of influence are described by a guy named Cialdini, and he developed a theory for what triggers what he calls the click word response, or like an automatic response. So he calls these the weapons of influence. These are described in the consistency principle, which says that we should act consistently with our previous actions. So one of these is reciprocation, which is basically like the golden rule, like do unto others as they do to you, get or give what you get. The foot in the door technique is basically asking someone for something small and then requesting something larger, so that like you theoretically have your foot in the door and you already like they already are expecting you to ask for something. And lowballing is the practice of making a request, but once a person agrees to it, then the compliance is more costly than it first seemed. So basically, it's kind of like the foot in the door technique, but you start small and then gradually get bigger. Social proof is the tendency for individuals to act similar to one another. So basically, like it's like groupthink, like you act in the same way as others do. And liking is when an individual is inclined to comply with another's request simply because they like them. So this could be someone that you want to become better friends with, or someone that you want to be romantically involved with, and you're more inclined to do what they say just because you like them. Um, Deception and truth bias are also methods of convincing people of things, and that's concealment, distortion, or lying in communication, or the tendency not to suspect one's intimates of deception. Methods of aversive communication are things that can be damaging to a relationship, or cause damage to a relationship. Um, Jealousy, like Abby said, is an emotional response to a threat in a relationship. So, lack of inclusion in a friendship or another person being involved in a romantic relationship could cause this. Hurtful messages are a consequence of this, as people do sometimes without thinking, and they're intended to hurt an individual's feelings as a result of their emotions. So, this could be criticism of someone's physical appearance or like personal attacks. Intentional messages are intended to cause harm, while unintentional messages are not, and that's just a consequence of what people say. Intensity is the degree of intended emphasis, so the amount in which you intend to hurt someone. Relationship threats are the ones that have the most serious effect within all kinds of relationships. So, transgressions are any kinds of violations of a fundamental rule of a relationship. So this could be cheating, this could be lying, or whatever. Like you basically set as the as the ground rules in the beginning. When they're broken, that's a transgression. So a relational temptation is a third party getting involved in your relationship and threatening it. So, for example, this is like an outside person. Like if you're at a bar and you're in a relationship, and someone else comes up to you and flirts, that's a relational temptation. Mate guarding is an attempt to protect one's mate. So let's say your boyfriend's at that bar and they try to protect you from that person that's flirting with you. That's mate guarding. Relational and emotional or physical infidelity is when both partners violate relationship rules in different ways. So this could either be like cheating with someone physically, or being emotionally involved with someone else, or having some kind of relationship with someone else. Relationship violence is any kind of physical abuse in a relationship. So battering is any kind of violence as a way to control one's partner. Interpersonal violence can be against a child too, or a partner. So these are all variations of the same thing. Situational couple violence is usually more mild, but it's mutual between both parties, but that doesn't mean that it's at an equal amount for both parties. Rape is sex without one party's consent or against their will, but unwanted sex is not the same thing. It's sex without consent, but there's no physical force. Sexual coercion is non-violent, but it's verbal pressure to have sex. This is common on college campuses.
Alright, so now I'm going to talk about the individual relationship challenges and society, which is just people's perceptions and responses to the relationships that are dependent on the social and cultural norms and values they've learned throughout their life. So basically, people's effects on relationships is how they've been socialized and taught to act in their relationships through what they've seen throughout their lives. So society, sex roles, and relationship challenges. Society focuses on the behavior of the individual aggressors rather than the social structures that allow abuse. So we focus more on punishing the perpetrators, but we don't really actually aim to make social changes as a whole to society, such as decreasing social acceptance of relationship violence, creating equality between a man and woman, or teaching skills that can avoid situational violence. The US media portrays male aggression as normal. In movies, books, and televisions, it's often a common plot point, and the female counterpart interprets the aggression as a sign of love. This can be seen throughout many movies where the man will be aggressive and the woman tends to believe that they're being aggressive and passionate because he loves her, not because he's an aggressive, dangerous person. This leads to believe that arguing and fighting are a sign of love and passion, and individuals are not taught how to handle conflict. Throughout radio, television, and even in the home, family life, they often show yelling and screaming as ways to handle problems rather than constructive argumentation. Those with good argumentation skills have actually been shown to be less verbally aggressive, but there are still fewer resources that have been devoted to teaching these conflict skills. And then there's a link on this page to a 2-minute video on how to have better argumentation skills. I'm not going to include it in the recording, but if you're interested in having better argumentation skills, it's a great watch. So I'm going to talk about society, emotion, and relationship challenges. So many people explain the emotional behavior of people by referencing their culture. For example, people think that Greeks are more emotionally expressive and that the Japanese are more emotionally reserved and don't really show as much emotion as others. And that's because culture does actually have an impact on emotional experiences due to families and how they influence them. So, for example, Chinese babies react less and express less emotion than US infants do, and that's in part because Chinese parents expect more emotional restraint and reinforce this behavior. So emotional norms suggest which emotions are good or bad to experience. For example, greed is pretty widely recognized as a bad emotion. It's one of the 7 deadly sins. Feeling rules are rules that are defined by society that determine how one should feel when experiencing specific events. So, for example, in the US, if you're criticized, you feel angry or defensive, but in Japan, Korea, or Saudi Arabia, you often feel shame, and that's because countries like that have something called a shame culture. Display rules are societal rules that govern how people should react when they experience a given emotion. So some cultures encourage and permit aggression as a response to anger, while others promote withdrawal. So some people want you to fight back, and some people think you should step away. All right, ethics and relationship challenges. Ethical communication in relationships is important for 2 reasons. And that's because we expect those closest to us to be truthful with us, and we relate intimacy with the degree of honesty in our relationships. So dishonesty can decrease intimacy and lead to termination of relationships and can lead to feelings of deceit and betrayal. Confronting issues and communicating mutually is very beneficial to maintaining intimacy within your relationship. And in order to do this, you need to address issues, acknowledge pain and emotion that the other people are feeling, and apologize when you're the one at fault. Communicating ethically requires avoiding the use of manipulation to influence others by means of threatening, lying, or using passive aggression to coerce those close to us into doing what we want them to do. So, how to improve your interpersonal communication skills. And this is kind of explaining how to apologize effectively if you're in a dispute with someone you're in a relationship with. So first, you shouldn't wait because waiting too long can be perceived negatively and basically as not apologizing at all. It's best to apologize as soon as possible after your transgression, because a delayed apology suggests that you're not doing so that you're only doing so because you're coerced. Another way to improve would be to be genuine. An insincere apology does not repair damage in a relationship. A successful apology requires being truly sorry. Identifying what you did wrong, make it clear that you know exactly how you injured the other party, and make sure you don't say things like, I'm sorry if you feel bad, I'm sorry you got hurt. That's not an apology. Say how you're sorry and what you did wrong. Don't offer justification or excuses. While this can be tempting, don't do it because it won't excuse your bad behavior, being drunk or being stressed. Don't put the blame on the other person. Don't say, if you didn't work all the time, I wouldn't have to do this. It's just not going to come off the way you want it to. Good. Explain how you will ensure that it does not happen again. Assure that you have learned your lesson. Apologies without commitment to hold change in the future have no value. And then accept the other person's anger. The person does not have to immediately forgive and forget. Often right after a transgression, someone's going to feel very emotionally charged and not think straight, so it's best that you just give them time and listen to how they were hurt and give them time to recover. And then this YouTube video is a link to an example of poor communication skills when apologizing. It is a clip of Joey from Friends, and it's funny, so you can watch it. Thanks!